On today's episode of MR Triton, we're talking snorkels. Oh, it's bloody bright out here today. So on today's episode of MR Triton, we're going to talk about the value a snorkel provides in your off-roading experience. There's a bit of a stigma at the moment, it seems these days, where people sort of think that you don't need a snorkel and you shouldn't buy one and you're just a bit of a poser if you do buy one. As you know, the last video I did, prior to this one, I did a snorkel installation. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to explain why I did the snorkel installation and the value it will provide to my future off-roading experience and adventures. So one thing I discussed during my snorkel installation video was the near miss that I had while I was at the Eyre Peninsula trip. So as you know, I nearly flooded my Triton, my airbox, got it a bit wet when I did a water crossing that was a little bit too deep. And as you know, we encountered that water crossing in error. We hadn't expected to meet that water crossing. Previous or prior to doing that trip, I was of the opinion that I didn't really need a river crossing. I live in South Australia. We're not on the east coast of Australia, we're not in Tasmania, there's not a lot of water crossing, four-wheel driving scenarios. But when we got to Coffin Bay National Park, we didn't realise, and neither did a lot of people there that day, that there was an extremely high tide. So we drove all the way out, went through a little bit of water on the way out, and on the way back in, we encountered some really deep tidal water that wasn't going to clear for a good couple of hours. So what we had to do was we had to drive through the deep water in order to get home, otherwise we would have been there for a long time. So what we decided to do was do the river crossing and be as safe as possible. We pre-fit recovery gear in case we did get stuck, and what we did was we drove to the conditions and drove as carefully as we could. So what I did when it got to the deep part of the crossing, I drove on through and maintained a bit of throttle and got a bit of water into my airbox. And as I got to the end of that water crossing, I hit a random deep spot. Nose dove in, I could feel the revs bogging down, which means that there's a lack of fuel or oxygen, and obviously going through water, I knew it was air. There was a lack of air / oxygen feeding the engine. I immediately turned off the key, turned off the ignition, and the car stopped just outside of the water crossing, or on the other side of the river. Now, lucky for me, I had turned off my engine and I prevented it from hydrolocking and sucking in water. But had I not done that, my car would have been a total write-off. And let's just say, as good as Mitsubishi's warranty is, it's not going to cover ignorance or incompetence when it comes to a water crossing. Now, real quick, I just want to make a special mention to a group of individuals that I encountered the other day. If you live in the eastern states, you've probably heard of Road Tech Marine. But if you're in South Australia, I very much doubt that you've heard of Road Tech Marine. What they've done is they've opened their first store in South Australia on Sir Donald Bradman Drive. And having driven past this store multiple times, I noticed, well, the car park's a bit empty. What do? Road Tech Marine, they've got a bit of full drive imagery and camping imagery. Seems like the kind of store that would be up my alley. And I was right on that. It's safe to say that it's a bit of a combination of stores, something a bit like a Snowy's, bit of a BCF, bit of an Anaconda, but they've got more than just that. The primary audience seems to be more of a caravan / boating audience, but they've also got tons of stuff for building overland. They've got heaps of 12-volt batteries, fridges, etc. So if you're in the market for that sort of stuff and you're after a bit of a one-stop shop, if you've got a full drive you want to deck out and you've also got a caravan you want to deck out, they've got everything. Inline water filters, water pumps, the whole lot. Highly recommend going and having a look. I mean, look at this. I've got my favorite thing in the world, Mini Presso. So if you're in that Mile End area, you're always going to BCF, you're always going to Anaconda, or you're just passing through, definitely pop in and see Road Tech Marine. Tell them MR Triton sent you. I guarantee you will leave with something in your basket. So what does a snorkel actually do? A snorkel essentially relocates the pipe from which your car would generally draw air, which is normally in the front right fender, and basically relocates it to at your roof height. It greatly increases the depth at which you can cross rivers or water obstacles. They're valuable to have because A, if you have a once-off situation like I did, for the sake of $400, you're not going to flood your engine. That's not to say that everything else is protected. You might not have diff breathers and maybe you're going to mess up your diff if you forget about that as well. A snorkel isn't the only thing you need to cross water safely. There's obviously many types of snorkel as well. You've got your stainless steel snorkels and you've got your plastic snorkels and whatever else is out there. I prefer plastic, but obviously a lot of people prefer stainless. They do the same thing. They both look good. And also one of my favorite things about a snorkel is it adds that kind of a dose sound, the induction sound. You can hear your turbo spawn up, sucking in air. And the Triton's got a bit more of a deeper rumble to it when you've gone as well. So there's that value too. It can make your car sound better in day-to-day life. Not that Tritons sound good, they're not exactly big displacement speed machines, but it sounds a fair bit better with the snorkel attached. So we've all established snorkels are valuable. They are a bit of an insurance policy. They add sound to your vehicle. They also make your vehicle look more serious, add character sector. Maybe you don't go off-road all that often, maybe you just tow a caravan. It's still good to have one. If you've got the money there, don't not buy one because you don't plan on ever going over any water obstacles, because like I said, you never know. And for the sake of $400 to $500, it's good to just have that little bit of an insurance policy. Plus, if you make YouTube videos, it gives you something cool to make a fun video about. As always, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.